So what you're about to hear, it's an account, pieced together from the final transmission of a Galactic Coalition commander. It's the story of a war that, well, it should have been over in just a few hours, but instead, it revealed something utterly terrifying about a species everyone had completely underestimated: us.
And this was the question that haunted the Coalition commander. See, his species, they were this logical, ancient empire. They saw the whole universe in terms of strategic assets. Claws, armor, psychic abilities. Humanity? We had none of that. And yet, this one simple question, it would completely unravel everything they thought they knew about war.
You have to understand, for generations, we were just a data point to them, a line in their galactic survey. We were fragile, illogical, emotionally compromised. So when humanity actually refused to join their coalition, they didn't really see it as defiance. No, it was just a simple error, something they figured a quick little show of force would correct.
And so that brings us to the first act of this story, a plan so perfect, so surgically precise, that its failure was, well, statistically impossible.
And here's where you really see the disconnect. On one side, you have the Coalition's assessment: weak, fragile, illogical. But on the other side, the reality on the battlefield: resilient, relentless, completely unpredictable. The massive gap between these two columns, that's where our story really kicks off.
I mean, just try to imagine it. A totally seamless global decapitation strike. In an instant, every satellite, every single communication network, just gone, turned to dust. The whole planet went dark, silent. And from orbit, the Coalition commanders, they just watched. They waited for what they saw as the inevitable surrender. The war, as far as they were concerned, was already over.
But that surrender, it never came. Instead, from all that chaos and silence, something else started to rise. An anomaly. Something their threat models could never, ever have predicted. This was that first major anomaly. With no central command, no way to communicate. Humanity didn't just shatter into pieces. No, it came together, spontaneously. Old radios sputtered back to life, and people, ordinary people, they just began to fight back, driven by some kind of shared, unspoken instinct.
This question actually came from an elite Coalition soldier, right on the ground, and it's so important. For them, a battle without any chance of victory is just a waste of resources. It's completely illogical. But they were about to get a lesson in a very, very different kind of math.
So, picture the scene, right? The Coalition's absolute finest soldiers, these bioengineered warriors, they land in a city, and the very first thing they see is a man with nothing in his hands, just running straight at them. He was terrified. They could see it in his eyes, but there was something else there, hiding behind the fear.
And then another one followed him.
And another one right after that.
And another. Just this endless, illogical tide of unarmed people charging straight into certain death. And the elite soldiers? They actually hesitated, not from fear, but from sheer profound confusion. I mean, what were they supposed to do? What was even happening? Okay, so the Coalition was still advancing, right? By their metrics, they were still winning every single engagement. But every street they took, it cost them more than it should have. Every single victory felt hollow, because they were about to run into a variable that wasn't in any of their equations.
Then, on a battlefield just littered with debris and the fallen, in that strange quiet between firefights, a single, small figure appeared.
The alien soldiers, they moved in, cautious, yeah, but still confident. And then, an explosion. When the commander replayed the footage later, he saw it. The child had waited until the entire alien unit was clustered together before detonating a hidden explosive.
The commander whispered these words in the silence of the command deck. See, it wasn't some tactical move calculated for a gain. It was a total loss, willingly paid for a cause. And it was something their logic just could not comprehend.
So they tried to define it, right? To put it into some kind of box they could understand. And this force of protection became a new, terrifying variable. What it meant was that for humans, personal survival, it wasn't always the main goal. And a species that doesn't prioritize its own survival, well, that's impossible to predict, and it's impossible to intimidate.
And this one act, this one sacrifice, it sent a shockwave across the entire planet. And in the face of total annihilation, humanity did the one thing it had never, ever managed to do in its entire history.
Suddenly, there were no more countries, no more old rivalries or grudges. For the first time ever, humanity wasn't just a collection of tribes fighting each other. It became a single organism with one single purpose: to survive, to protect what was left.
So the Coalition launched its final, overwhelming assault to end it once and for all. The battle that followed, it lasted for 6 hours. 6 hours of just
Absolute, relentless, unified resistance against a force that was so much more technologically superior. And when the smoke finally cleared, the sky was empty. But here's the thing. The Coalition fleet hadn't been destroyed. They had fled. They retreated. They finally realized they weren't fighting an army they could break. They were fighting an idea they just couldn't kill.
And that leads us to the Commander's final report, the epilogue to a war that would change the Galactic Coalition forever. This was his final message. Not a recommendation, it was a command, a stark, absolute warning sent to the highest levels of the Galactic Council. And when they demanded to know why they retreated, he gave them a reason they would never, ever forget.
And this was the answer. All their pain, their fear, their loss. It wasn't a weakness that could be exploited. No, it was the fuel for their resilience. It was the source of a strength that the Coalition, in all its logical perfection, could never even hope to possess.
And so, in the official records of a massive galaxy-spanning empire, humanity was given a new classification. It wasn't based on our technology or biology, but on the emotion we inspired in those who tried and failed to break us. We became the one thing that even the most powerful beings in the universe learned to fear.